One limitation of EZDrummer is that you cannot layer multiple drums. So you can't trigger 5 different snare drums at once with the same MIDI note, all within the same plugin. It's unfortunately not possible, but it's not too hard to do it manually. And I'll even show you with the built-in Reaper sampler. So I'm going to put in 2 new tracks below the MIDI track. And this will be snare MIDI. And this will be kick MIDI. A simple way to do this is to just select all the MIDI and copy that down by holding Command, dragging that down to the snare track. Going to glue this to make a new MIDI file that is the entire length of the song. There's no splits or anything like that. Going to load in my MIDI note name map. So note names, load map from file. I want to select all of my kick and my snare hits. So I'm going to right click to select all of the kick hits, shift right click to get my snare center hits. I'm going to open up the action list for the MIDI editor. And I'm going to invert selection. So I'm going to run and close that. And I'm going to press delete to delete everything that is not a kick or a snare. Going to then copy this a second time to the kick track. And we're going to make sure that the snare is selected, the snare MIDI is selected. Going to select just the kick, delete that, go to the other track and delete just the snare. And that is done. All we need to do is add in something to play the samples. So we have all of the drum performance on this track. We have just the snare here and just the kick here. So I'm going to open up ReaSamplomatic. The Kakos folder right here. And I do have a snare sample already picked. This is a multi-sampled snare. I'm going to select them all, bring them into the list view of ReaSamplomatic, close list view, set my minimum volume to infinite, well, minus 80 is probably better. Set my max voices to 1, attack to 0, and let's see how that sounds now. Now, the good thing is if we want to change that, it's as simple as changing it here, or we can duplicate that and get us a second snare sample. So we're looking at track 4 snare MIDI, go into list view, and let's get different snares. And I have no idea what these are. Not that one. Let's try this one. Oh, first we'll delete these. Drag these in. And here's how that one sounds. Together. So now we have 3 snare drums playing at the same time. It's a more textured and complex sound. Also want to send those to the reverb, probably. And we might even want to process these as a group, so all the snares together. So let's do that by putting in another track. It's called the snare sum. And we'll do the same thing for the kick. May as well. This will be kick sum. I do like to have my kick before the snare in the track orders. So I'm going to bring that over here and make that a folder. So I've got my kick sum, my snare sum. If we're happy with that, we can collapse that. And so here at kick MIDI, need ReaSamplomatic again. And we'll set this up for kick drum. So max voice is 1. Velocity doesn't really matter. Probably not going to use that. And attack to 0. And let's choose a sample. Kick drums. These are all basically the same. So I'm just going to grab one of these. I like the sound of that. It's very aggressive, but it's pretty cool. So let's hear how this sounds now. Loud as hell, I'm sorry. So you can see how easily you can really beef up your kick sounds by just using another kick. Let's duplicate that. And so now we're on track 5. And I'm going to use a different kick drum. So I'm just grabbing anything kind of at random. Weird. Let's take this one here. Take this one. It's a pretty natural sounding kick. Let's hear these 3 together. This is another situation where you have to check the phase whenever you're combining different mics on the same sort of sound source. Phase becomes an issue with a low-end instrument like the kick drum. The polarity of signal really makes a difference. Here's the original kick by itself. Lots of low end. Bring in this other kick. Less low end. Flip the polarity. So once again, let's hear this without any effects on it. We'll mute the reverb and mute the ambient mic. Let's see what we started out with. Pretty huge transformation and not really that much time spent. And at this point, I would probably process the snare altogether, the kicks altogether, put in a little bit of compression, maybe another EQ just to shape things a little bit more, maybe clip it, maybe use some transient shaping on it, go back to my drum bus and tweak things overall, maybe add in some parallel distortion, maybe add in a different sort of reverb sound, maybe one that's a little bit brighter. The sky's the limit for this stuff, but hopefully I've just shown you some of the possibilities of what you can do. A lot of it comes down to EQ and then augmenting the kick and the snares with additional samples can make a huge difference. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon. Visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.